We're doing a tier list. I'm Clefin. We're watching gametechtalk. This is gametechtalk, a channel that specializes on anything tech that is gaming related. Let's get it on. I was working on reviewing this device and I pretty much have all the data that I needed. I thought, you know what, let me take a bit more time and compose my ideas and make something special. Give me about a week and that review should be out. So today we'll do something that I wanted to do for the longest time, which is a tier list. I never tackled it, so if you have any inputs, things I should do different, things I should just not do, let me know, because I just haven't really watched a whole lot of them, and this is my first time ever doing one. If you have any inputs, you know where to put them. All right, so full disclosure, some of those controllers that we'll look into I bought, and some were sent for review. Of course, that will have zero impact on how I position them into the tier list. So let's talk about how I evaluate the numbers. I'm not playing games in this video. I'm really going into like the user experience kind of mindset. So the feel, the buttons, the compatibility, the price, all these things. So either here or there, I'm not sure where exactly at this point, but I'll probably have a couple of information about the device as I'm talking about it. And yeah, we'll just have a quick overview of the different telescopic controllers that I have in my box, and let's just rate them basically. If ever there's a device that I'll be picking out and that you have questions about, make sure to let me know. I'm happy to help in your shopping or buying experience, or just answer your questions, your curiosity. And it goes without saying, if there's one of those controllers that we look into today that you're interested in buying for yourself, you'll have a link in the description, of course, to no extra cost to you, the buyer, but it does help the channel tremendously to do those videos. Enough talking. Let's dive in. This is, if I recall, the first controller from BSP, and yeah, that one suffered a little bit of heat damage and the button melted with the case, but I did have the opportunity to use it a little bit. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it is extremely cheap feeling, and it doesn't help that mine burned, but it actually still works to this day. This is definitely a C, and the only reason why I will not put it into D is basically because it is so cheap. At least it was when I bought it. I don't know if it still is cheap now, but it definitely was when I bought it. Just not the best product. Very cheap in terms of buttons, the feel, their membrane. The shoulders are tactile, so are the triggers, but yes, it just doesn't feel that great. But again, I think it was like 20 bucks. I like to think that this was a great option if you just wanted to get sort of a feel for that telescopic lifestyle controller for your phone. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. It just was, you know, so easy to own, and they had so many colorways. I would assume they probably still sell it, because I'm pretty sure they sold a truckload of that. It's just not a great controller. And it had that mechanism like this. Oh, actually, I have one of those racks here. I don't think we're gonna have enough of one, but yeah, we'll just pile them on here. Oh, that one came in early, so I feel like that one has a chance of changing as the video goes forward. The Razer Kishi Ultra. Now that one, at this point in time, I want to say S, and the only reason why it could get knocked out is the price. Because as far as the controller goes, it is a great controller. The ergonomics are phenomenal. The buttons feel great. There's really nothing wrong with this controller. It is compatible for iOS, Android. I mean, the haptic, from what I understand, does not work at this point in time with iOS, but apparently they're working on fixing that. But yes, as far as the controller goes, it is a great product. It has a lot of features. It's not really missing anything except maybe like being able to play Sony Remote Play natively, because it doesn't spoof as a DualSense controller. But for all intents and purposes, that is probably the best controller in the entire list. If it ends up being knocked down, it's because of the price, because everything else about it is just great. So Razer Kishi Ultra. And I'm gonna have a tough time rating this one. This is the Moga XP7-X Plus. And that controller, I feel like it flew under the radar. You know, it's one of those products that in my mind, when Moga created this, they probably thought, man, we're gonna make so much money with this one. And I don't think it sold as much as they expected it to be. It wasn't really popular, but it's not for lack of not being a great controller. It doesn't have what a lot of controllers have nowadays, for example, like Hall effect sticks and all that kind of stuff. but it feels very much like an Xbox controller one. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for iOS. They might have a version for iOS. I'm going to put it up anyways if they do. But yeah, this one has something very unique. There is a very large battery in there, and basically you have wireless charging. So whenever you put your phone in there, you can charge your phone as you play. You can also play wired. Man, that one is a hard one. See, the one reason why I wouldn't go straight to A is the connector. And when that thing came out, like USB-C was well available, but I would assume that the design was probably already made, so they didn't change to USB-C. And that is by far the one thing holding this controller back, because it does come with a wire, USB-C to micro USB. You know, it's that one thing that took so much away from it. The buttons are great. The D-pad was decent. I mean, nothing special. And you see, oh, I guess it's not powered on, yeah? Oh, I guess it has no more battery. So the battery depletes. Because I charged it recently. I used it recently and it was fully charged. Okay, you know what? Now that I see that the battery is fully depleted, because I know for a fact that I did charge this, I'm going to give it a B. I was on the fence because, again, it's a very good product. It just is being held back by little things. It does hurt it a lot. I wish it would extend more. You know, maybe it could have been great for tablets as well, but yeah. Oh, the X2s. Man, this is a very good controller. The X2s from GameSir is very, very good. It's not perfect, but it's, you know, I feel like when they originally introduced the X2 and you had that whole situation with having the Egg NS emulator that only worked with that controller and a bunch of other things, I thought it was overrated. And it was super pricey. It was like $95 at the time. The X2 line for me kind of started being written off because I wasn't a fan of the controller. Back then it was the Nintendo layout and it just didn't feel all that good. It didn't have those ergonomic bumps. They've come a long way. And that controller for me is an A, definitely. The X2s is a great controller. You can go tablet. You have, like, they come with those little nubs to change your sticks. Very little missing from this controller. Like, you could potentially say you don't have the extra paddles, you don't have like a 3.5mm jack, but that's also not standard. And, you know, for whatever it doesn't have, it makes up for a lot. The buttons are great. You have the swivel connector. You have the tablet mode. Oh! That controller. Okay, so this is specific to one phone, and it's unfortunate because it is a very, very good controller, and this is the Kunai from ROG. And I think to this day that this controller works with every ROG phone. I could be wrong. I think they include the adapter to change based off of the phone you buy, but I'm not 100% sure. And it was so expensive, something like $200 US, like stupid expensive. But I'll have to say, at the time that it came out, and I had the previous one, the Kunai 2. The Kunai 2 was okay, but that was the one controller that made me think, oh, so it's possible to have great controllers on mobiles. Have a center attachment, much like, you know, the Joy-Cons with the Nintendo Switch, and you can make it into a controller, which into a controller mode, it's kind of okay. It's not all that good, to be honest. But for mobile, the ergonomics is great. Like, you weren't missing any features. It had those extra paddles in the back. Very, very feature rich. So Asus has this modus operandi, okay? They always, whenever they introduce new products, like they lowball the price and they really create a wave in the market that they attack. They did that in cell phones, they did that in monitors, laptops, graphics card, name it. But when it comes to accessories, oh, they're gonna make their money back. And we've seen that with the ROG Ally. It's the exact same modus operandi. So the Kunai controllers were stupid expensive. And I also have the twin view adapter. Every now and then I feel like I should make a video about that because it was a really cool kit, but it was so costly. Anyways, great controller. Definitely an A, easily. I wouldn't feel good rating it under that, but with the way that the market is right now, there's definitely better. And the one thing that holds this one back is it only works for ROG phones. It doesn't work for anything else. So that's the reason why. But, you know, it was a wired connection with wireless capabilities. It's a very, very rich, feature-rich controller, definitely. The EasySMX, wow, I feel like we're just lining up the A's. I can already tell you that's an A easily. That controller, and I rewatched my review and I feel like I haven't made a good enough job at illustrating how good this controller is. It's really, really good. Like, it has vibration. So it's basically a better X2s. You know, the X2s that we talked about. Oof. I feel like, you know what? This is an S. The EasySMX is definitely the M05. Did I say the M10? If I did, it's the M05. Is definitely S. It has a swivel connector. You have Hall effect triggers. You don't have Hall effect sticks, or at least I don't believe so. I've seen different descriptions, but based off of what I read and what I understand and what I've seen when benchmarking those sticks, I don't think they're Hall effect. There's contradicting information out there. The buttons feel great. Honestly, everything is great about that controller. And as much as the X2s made me think, oh, the ergonomics can be good in those candy bar style telescopic controllers, I feel like this one does do it better. The one thing that the X2s has that is better than this one, well, there are two things really. The tablet mode, that I feel is such a small niche of people that will use it for that. And the grips in the back, I like the shape better on the M05, but I like the fact that the texture is different on the X2s, but that is something that you can address with stickers. But yes, the EasySMX M05 is on the market right now, probably one of the better telescopic controllers, and I hate the fact that it's not readily available on Amazon. And I tried to talk to EasySMX. I think there's a logistic issue with having it supplied in time for Amazon, and I hope they can figure that out, because this is such an unknown, or it seems to be unknown and highly underrated, because a lot of people just don't know that this controller exists. It's so good. So there's a spider on my stand right now, and it's quite big, and I don't like spiders because, you know, they unlike everything else, and I'd much rather have to look at spiders. But yeah, as long as they don't walk on me. The X2 Pro, which is licensed by Microsoft, is hard to recommend. It's not a bad controller, but I think it wasn't as bad as the Kishi V2 when it comes to the buttons, but they weren't all that great. Same goes for the D-pad. The one thing that this controller has over the others is that it has back paddles, and it has a oh, no? I thought it had the I guess it doesn't even have the 3.5mm jack. I kind of thought for a second. Okay, well then forget what I said. Oh my god, this spider. If I jump at some point in the video, you know why. Okay, so, man, I stay concentrated. So yes, swivel connector. I mean, it has everything that the X2s has. The fact that it's licensed on Xbox, it doesn't really change much. It doesn't have the dual mode. See, the thing with the X2s is it can spoof as a DualSense controller, and it can spoof as an Xbox controller. This one cannot. It only does Xbox spoofed. So yeah, that one to me is a B. The famed GameSir Galileo G8, and the one I have is modded. And if you've seen my review, you already know that's an S. I mean, if you've seen any review, really, you already know that the Galileo right now is probably the best controller. And to be honest, to be perfectly 100% honest, yes, the Kishi Ultra is slightly better, but it is also twice the price. So it is not warranted. And that's the reason why I still have to debate if I'm going to knock it by the end of this video. But the GameSir G8, Galileo G8 for sure is going S, and it's staying there guaranteed. If you haven't seen anything about this controller, please watch the review I made or watch any other review. Like, it can be modded for tablets. So the only thing that there are two things. It doesn't have rumble, which wasn't a big deal at the time because you barely had options with rumble, but it's starting to get there more and more. And the D-pad is meh. Yeah, it's not the best for fighters. That's probably one thing, but still, for everything else that it has, this is definitely S. Oh, with the stub nubs. Yeah, that one is a B to me. Now, it would have been an A if it didn't have that flimsy system. The problem is when you put your phone in, it is very flimsy, but for everything else, it actually was very decent. It didn't have the paddles. The ergonomics was okay, not the greatest, not the worst. The buttons were good. That was actually the better version between that one and the V2, which we'll look into in a second. The D-pad was meh, okay, but that was another controller that at that point in time, Android really didn't have anything, and you had the backbone on the iOS side. So that controller was sort of reassuring that at least we had that option. But the reality is, if you would lay hand on the backbone and then on this one, the backbone was the better option of the two. Talking about the backbone, here it is. So this is the Lightning connector edition. and I changed the buttons to the PlayStation one, the backbone was shocking. It was definitely shocking, especially for iOS, because it was one thing to be on Android and you had options, not always necessarily great options, but you had options. On iOS, it was crickets. There was basically nothing. And whatever was there, it was like that sketchy iPega controller that works half the time with terrible latency and terrible sticks. The backbone was like, not only was it on a market that we wouldn't see a whole lot of products, but it also was extremely good compared to everything else that the market had seen. Definitely a groundbreaking product when it came out. With that said, in my opinion, it has been heavily surpassed. And the one problem that I have is, and it's not so much that it's a problem, it's the name of the game. But Backbone to this day is best at one thing versus anybody else on the market, and it is marketing. They did such a great job at marketing, and they don't do it as much as they once did, but they can ride that wave. That's what makes it so great about them. That a lot of people, whenever they're like, okay, you know what? There's Assassin's Creed Mirage coming out for iPhone 15s, and there's a bunch of games I want to play with controllers. Let me get a Backbone. And I get that, because this is the name that they've been hearing over and over and over again, so they think it's the greatest option there is, but it's been so surpassed. Still, it's not a bad controller. That's not what I'm trying to say. It is a decent controller. Just, there's better now. Backbone. The Backbone one, I'm hesitant between A and B. I feel like if I give it A, it's because of what it once achieved. If I give it B, it's because of what it now is compared to the rest of the market. And I know it sounds harsh, but they're so much better. Like, there really is. I'm gonna have to go B. I'm gonna have to go B because I know there's a few other controllers I have that I still haven't laid hands on. If I would put it A, it would end up being knocked to B, so I'm gonna put it B. The Mocute, and this is our first D. To give you an idea, that controller I bought at a point in time where I was like, oh, what can I review? And that was like when I was just starting coming back to YouTube, and I was doing a lot of GPD WinMax 2 videos. And I was like, oh, you know what? Let me try this. And I bought it. And then I got it out of the box and I was like, oh, wow. And if I recall, it wasn't all that cheap. It wasn't expensive, but it's like, it wasn't BSPD3 cheap. And it's just not great. And I'm sorry if some people out there like this controller, but the buttons feel cheap. Like, this is, oh my god, the shoulders are terrible. Yes, like everything about this controller is not great. It really isn't. There's not much to like about it. It's not even USB-C. I mean, I don't know when it came out, but yes, that is our first D. Like, easily, I don't even feel a little bit bad about this. It has basically the same system as Joy-Cons, so they're separate, and it came with like different attachments. And that one is quite older, to be honest. And I think I got it while I was in Florida for a vacation at my wife's parents, and I could never find it in Canada. And that was like probably over a year before the Galileo G8 came out, and I was trying to find a way to attach controllers to a tablet. And I had seen this guy on Etsy that would make an adapter, and I thought, you know what, let me try to get the controllers, and I could never get them while I was in Canada. So while I was in the States, I got it for like 35 bucks. And when I held it, I was like, oh, this is bad. Yeah, this is terrible. Like, your hands will cramp because it's so tiny. The buttons are super duper clicky, but not comfortable. Yeah, just not a great controller. This is easily a D, and I can't remember the name, so I'm just gonna put Razer. Terrible. That was, Razer came out when the market was very minimalistic and cheap, and I don't know how much they charged for this, but I don't think it was too long before they came out with the Kishi V1, and I think it was obvious to them that it wasn't a great product. Here it is. That one caught me off guard. A lot of people talked about this one. And you have the BSP D8, if I recall, that looks like the PlayStation Portal controller. And this is the D9, if I'm not mistaken. or it's the opposite. That one is honestly quite surprising. This is, and you have to think that we came from this, right? So I'm here thinking, BSP, yeah, it's going to be trash. But I keep hearing people talk about it. And I actually bought this with my own money and very recently. And I was like, man, why does everybody rave about that controller? And I got it and I was pleasantly surprised. It is really quality. Like, it is such a massive jump. And that's why I'm pretty sure that they sold a lot of these, because I feel like BSP was a small company, probably buying like aftermarket, off the shelves kind of parts and just putting something basic together. And they had much success, so they were like, oh, we need to pursue this. To me, that's how it feels. And BSP D9, to me, it's like they're trying. You know what I mean? Like, that controller feels good. Mechanical buttons, well, no, they're probably tactile, but, you know, a good tactile for sure. So is the D-pad. The D-pad is okay, not the best. The sticks are fine, and you have RGB with it, the triggers, you have extra buttons here. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it really is a great controller, and it is still extremely affordable. That's the other thing. Yes, it is far more expensive than the D3, obviously, but it's still very much affordable. And it stretches, oh my lord, like it won't work for, it actually works for the iPad. I don't remember if it supports iOS. I think it does. I'm not sure. Anyways, great controller for sure. I'm going A because you're stuck to Bluetooth. But overall, like, that one could get close to being an S. Honestly, it's really not far off. Great product overall. So this is the backbone USB-C. Let's put it aside. The Kishi V2 Pro. And I'm probably going to shock a lot of people here, but this is a D. To me, this is for sure a D. The Kishi V2 Pro. I mean, it's nice that it had 3.5mm jack. It was obviously going after backbone, and the problem so there's a few things with this controller. First, the buttons suck. Like, they suck bad. They're tactile, but it's really not pleasant. They have so little travel that it's easy to think that you're letting go and pushing it again, and yet you haven't. I don't understand why this controller sold the way it did, because to me it's really not good. It feels like you're gonna break the connector every time. When I hold this controller, to me it feels like they didn't even pretend. They knew what they were going for. They were like, oh, backbone is finding success, let's make our own version of the backbone. This controller, it just screams, we copycat backbone. And they failed miserably. Like, and it's weird because the Kishi V1 was such a better controller, and yes, it wasn't perfect, and it had glaring flaws, specific flaws compared to this one. It was not as stable. It wasn't a perfect controller by no means, but all they had to do was slap that system on a Kishi V1 and it would have been so much better than this. Yeah, this is a D. So I don't know where the other F is, but this is the Atom from Turtle Beach, which I'm supposed to review soon, by the way. And the Atom, I'm gonna go B with the Atom because I feel like they brought something to market that was never done well. Like, it wasn't the first controller where you could detach, but it's definitely better than anything that existed before it. With that said, it's not the greatest controller in my opinion. The buttons are okay overall. I like, again, the idea, the concept. It's very much like the X4 Aileron. X4 Aileron is basically a copycat of this one done better, and that's really what it is. So yeah, I'm gonna go with B. There's also a lot of features that the GameSir Aileron has that this one doesn't, and for those, that's why I don't see how that could be better than a B. It's not to say that it doesn't have any positives, and we'll cover those in the actual review. It's a good controller. It's just not a great controller. Oh, that is the GameSir Aileron. And the GameSir Aileron, to me, is an A for sure. I love the title that Russ had for his review, which was, I might be paraphrasing here, but it's something along the lines of a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And I see where he's going with the title, and I can't say that I don't necessarily agree. But the thing with the Aileron is, honestly, it's a very, very good controller. Like, the ergonomics are great. There's a lot of hidden little features, like those little things that opens it. The buttons feels awesome. But the thing is, it's a very particular product for a very particular customer. Anyone that is looking for that kind of product will be delighted with it because it's really good. It's great actually at what it does. That's why I'm giving it an A. To me, it was a very surprising controller. It has, again, a lot of neat features. It's really not missing much. It's just that for anybody, for example, that play retro games, for anybody that is looking to have a controller attached at all times, would I say buy this over the GameSir Galileo, the Galileo G8? Never. There's never a point in time where I would say buy this over the Galileo G8. But if you need the ability to be able to detach, there's nothing better on the market that can do this. And much like Backbone revolutionized the iOS, to me, the GameSir Aileron X4 revolutionized the market that it's going after. And that's it. Great controller, really. That is the item that I need to read you. The EasySMX M10. I'm gonna put this. I'm hesitant. The problem that I have with this controller is that the M05 is better, in my opinion. All right, I ran into a little bit of a camera issue, so let's go back to the M10. The M10, yeah, it's just that the M05 is better. Now, considering I placed the M05 on S, I'm gonna put this one on A, because that's the thing. For me, I can't help but think of these controllers as a pairing because I reviewed them as such. But if I stay objective and I separate this one from the M05 and I just think of the overall market, this is an A for sure. Like, this is what the Kishi V2 and Kishi V2 Pro should have been. It doesn't have the 3.5mm jack. Everything else about this controller is superior. It has better buttons. It has a better feel. It has a swivel connector. It has better ergonomics. It has better everything, minus the 3.5mm jack. The rumble it has as well, and it's so affordable. Like, yeah, there's no way I can put this a B. There's absolutely no way I can put this a B because I just thought of the price, and the price makes it so affordable for the quality that it is. The dual torn iPega. And we talked about, controllers that have a split. That one had that feature as well where you could just, that was the thing with this one, is you were able to disconnect it like I just did. That is easily C. It wasn't terrible, and to be honest, I'm kind of torn. They don't seem to be making controllers anymore. Like, there was a time when iPega was flooding the market with so many controllers. Obviously and clearly they were selling a ton of them, but I feel like what might have had happened is that they manufactured way too much and they got stuck with so much inventory that they said, you know what? Never again. Because ever since, they've been making like simple accessories for the I have one, like a stand for the PSVR 2. They don't seem to be doing much these days, and it's unfortunate because they used to pump, and when I say pump, controllers like crazy. And there's a lot of controllers that are no longer in this box. I have like 3 other iPegas and a box in the other room. I bought a lot of their controllers, and there was a lot that I hated about them, but still they offered options when there barely was any. And when that was a thing, they had a lot of options that didn't exist anywhere else. For example, the Tab S7 Plus, they had this control, I think it's the 9067, that you were able to stretch and put your Tab S7 Plus in it. And like, it was such a tight fit, but it worked. So that was what introduced me to gaming on a tablet, and that's why I was trying to redo that thing. And that's the reason why I had actually bought the Atom, and you don't see the thing here. It's because I tried to mod it to add it to it, but it wasn't working all that great, and the controller was like okay, so I didn't bother, but I tried for so long. So when the Galileo came out and Retro Breeze came out with that one, I was like, oh my lord, I've been wanting this for so long. I was so happy. Anyways, the iPega Thorn, I'm sorry, it was decent. It was supposed to work for iOS, but Apple patched it, and then a few iOS versions later, they came out with the support for the PlayStation controller. So, you know, that was short-lived, the support on iOS. The sticks were terrible. They really weren't great at all. And the buttons were not really good. But, and that's the reason why I'm putting it a C. In contrast to a lot that iPega had made before it, that one actually felt better. So, you know, that's to say that it really wasn't all that great what they would put out, but they had options. And that one was able to stretch a lot. Not enough for the Tab S7 Plus, but, you know, anything smaller and a phone, it would also fit. And you had an adapter that you could put to, because that worked with Bluetooth, obviously. And it was also one of the first that had USB-C, if I recall. You can tell that there was effort in that controller, but it was one of the last ones that they made, and then they kind of disappeared and stopped making telescopic controllers for some reason. Anyways, that is the list. I think I'm going to leave it as is. I'm comfortable with everything that I have put up there. And that's pretty much it. Guys, let me know how you found that video. I had a blast doing this. I hope the footage is going to come out clean, because I don't want to have to redo this. But yes, that was a lot of fun, and I hope it was for you guys as well. Again, if you have questions, make sure to drop them in the comment box. If you have any inputs, if you have feedback, by all means, bring it. I love to know your opinion on this format for me, if you think it works for the channel. I think it does, but we'll wait and see if it's successful. Am I missing something? I feel like I'm missing something. Did I want to say something else? I feel like there was something else I wanted. Oh yeah, upcoming telescopic controllers. There are 3 controllers to look out for. Well, 2.5. There's one from ABXY or Absolute, as they call themselves, which should be a Galileo G8 with rumble. So I'm super excited to see what that's going to be all about. They should release somewhere during the summer, if I recall from what they're saying, on Kickstarter. I'm trying to get a review unit to hopefully cover it for you guys. I don't know if that's going to happen, but fingers crossed. I'd love to cover that controller, because the Galileo G8 is so great. If they can manage to do just about as good, but add rumble on it, that, and have like a decent price, that would be the top #1 controller in the entire world, at least until something better comes along. The Kishi Ultra is great because it's feature packed, but the ergonomics of the G8 are not worst. They're just slightly different, so it becomes a little bit of a subjective thing, and it does have a few more features as well. For example, the dual sense spoofing and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, I'm getting sidetracked here. Another one, GameSir actually hinted that they're making a controller for the iPad Pro. So there's very little to go off of. They just dropped a screenshot on their Discord. I know for a fact that it's not them hinting at the Galileo G8. I know it's something else. That is all I know. Unfortunately, I don't know more, but there's something coming. When? I don't know. Is it late summer? Is it, you know, during autumn? We'll see. But GameSir has definitely something in the works. And logically speaking, because they advertised it with the iPad Pro, that means official support for tablets. So I'm super excited to see what that's going to be all about. And I know the third one, the only thing I can say, because that's the only thing I know, is I have it on good authority that model. I don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be something that goes after the X4 Aileron? Is it something that goes after the backbone? I don't think so, because I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that they're going after the Galileo G8 and Razer Kishi Ultra, because right now, if and you know how I just like segmented these categories? Ooh, that would mean GameSir would have a solid and robust contender for our next telescopic controller. Anyways, I don't know when, I don't know what, but there's no question in terms of if. It will happen, just when, I have no clue. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. This is all I have for you today. I have a lot more coming in the next couple of days and a lot of work that needs to be done. Stay tuned, and thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And as always, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.